Good afternoon. Welcome to Managing Loan Signings Like a Pro. Doug DeVoe, Wanda Moore, and I, with over 40 years of combined notary signing experience, will share with you today signing techniques that can improve your closing experiences. At this time, we're going to hear from our presenters.
My name is Wanda Moore. I am a certified signing specialist, and I have been in the business for a little over 14 years, and I'm from Silver Spring, Maryland. What I like most about the business is the flexibility, and also I like serving others.
Hi, my name is Doug DeVoe. I'm from Lafayette, Indiana. I like to call myself a professional signing agent based on my experience and the certifications that I've earned. I've completed about 6,500 assignments, and you've heard the saying, do what you like what you do. That's my motto.
And I'm Elaine Wright Harris, and I am a certified signing specialist in the state of Maryland. I am from Mitchellville, Maryland. I've been in business for 14 years, and I just like the flexibility and be able to do this business in a correct manner and make money. So now, let me ask you a question. How many of you attending the conference today, this season, well, this week for the first time? Can I see by show of hands? Oh, wow. Okay. And how many of you sitting here today are actually notary signing agents? All right. Okay, very good. Well, again, we want to welcome everyone. Now, you should have a great packet of information, and you should have a staple set of information. And within your packet, the gray packet, you see some post-it notes and you see some stickies. There may be instances when we will ask you to role play with us, and we will have a question and answer session after the presentation. Now, has anyone here ever heard of the 5 P's? No? I'm going to tell you. Proper planning prevents poor performance. And today, we will present you with an overview of the loan closing process from the time you accept the appointment to returning the documents back to the lender and handling any post-closing issues. Each presenter will present different aspects of the loan signing process, and you will have an opportunity to view how 3 people do it. No 2 people will do it alike, but you will get a feel for as to how it's done. Now, let's take a look at our first slide here. All right, we're looking at the client and customer expectations. And we actually want to make sure that we present that professional face to our client, because when you think about the loan closing process, whose face do they see? Our face. So we want to make sure that we are providing superior customer service. We're also conducting the closing in accordance with the settlement service instructions, because just like your household, you may run your household different from someone else's. So when we do have an assignment, we want to pay close attention to our settlement service instructions. When we take a look at how we deliver those services, we want to make sure that the documents are executed accurately. No missed signatures, no missed dates or missed notary seals. We also want to make sure that we are performing all tasks in the process efficiently. And when you think about that, how do you handle the pre-closing process? You know, how do you print your documents? What do you do when you go to the borrower's home? How do you handle post-closing activities? So we just want to make sure that it's all being handled efficiently. And with education and training, you can perform these duties confidently. You also want to make sure that you meet deadlines in a timely manner. Now, when I talk about deadlines and the many deadlines that we have to meet, once you get that appointment, confirming the appointment with the borrower within a specified time frame, arriving at the closing on time. That's something else that we have to meet. Communicating the signing, the status of the signing to the lender, even returning documents in a specified time frame. And by mastering these performance objectives, you can manage your loan closings like a pro.
Okay, the next step, or first step in the process, will be to receive a request for your services. This request can come in the form of text messages, emails, or it may be in an app. And I just want to share with you how a phone call might go. The closing company will make the call, and it goes something like this. Hello, may I speak to Elaine Wright? She'll say, answer the phone, yes. And then I will say, I am Wanda Moore from ABC Closing Company. I have a closing in your area, and I would like to see if you are available to take it, and we're paying $200. And Elaine will say, great, I'm available, because that's an ideal situation. Once you work out those details about where the signing is and how much is going to be paid, the next thing you'll do is receive a confirmation of that agreement. In that confirmation, you want to make sure as soon as possible that you're very familiar with it in terms of knowing that the fee is stated correctly, the address of the borrower where it's going to be held, any special conditions that they may have, like when to contact the borrower in terms of confirming the actual appointment. And there may be other instructions there. And also be mindful that when you actually receive the loan package, there will be additional instructions. Okay, we have this is a sample of a confirmation. This is an agreement. I like to say it's the contract that the parties have agreed to. It itemizes the details of the assignment, and it specifies any other stipulations. Also, you want to make sure you hang on to this document so that it's available for preparing your taxes. Okay, the next step is going to be contacting the borrower. And you will do that in accordance with the instructions that were provided in the confirmation. When you're making this call, there's some information that you want to jot down so that you can get the information about driving directions, to make sure that it's within the parameters of how far you want to travel. You may want to know about parking, and there's some other things that you may want to ask. Could you? When you're making that phone call, this is a sample script. Of course, you will tailor it to your own personality, but it goes something like this. Hello, my name is Wanda Moore, and I'm calling on behalf of the lender's company to confirm your closing appointment scheduled for Monday, the 6th at 6 p.m. I want to introduce myself and confirm that I will be there. The address I'll have on file for you is 123 Dallas Boulevard. Should you need to contact me, I can be reached at my phone number. And thank you, and I will see you at the scheduled date. Have a good evening.
Another question.
Oh, do you ever ask on that first one whether they have identification? You know,
That
when you
may-
leave a message?
That may be another question that you want to ask during that phone call. You may want to verify that they have identification for themselves as well as any other parties that will be at the loan closing. There may
If
be,
there's money, if you have to receive money from them, you want to make sure they have the cashier's check.
at this point, you probably won't know that
Okay.
because you haven't actually received the loan package with those detailed instructions. And also you may want to ask about animals. if you have allergies, you're allergic to, you may want to make that known. And sometimes the customer is proactive and they'll ask you if you're okay with animals. There was another question?
Yes. My question was when you're first contacted about the assignment,
Mm-hmm.
and granted they give you the cost or what they're going to pay you, do they also tell you the time so that you can at that point in time say, no, I can't accept the assignment, or yes, I can?
Yes, they do give you the time, and also you want to make sure that you are very familiar with your own calendar so that you don't double book or overbook and you'll end up missing appointments. Any other questions? Okay, the next step was we'll start with actually retrieving the documents that they will be sending to you, and Doug will take care of that.
Thank you, Wanda. The next step is in the pre-closing activities. We do have some standards that we go by, and the first one is NPPI. NPPI is non-public private information. That's information about the customer that is not available to the general public. Now that would include the borrower's name, social security number, driver's license number, state ID, credit card information, debit card information, or financial account information. Protect that information like it was your own. You are responsible for that. And a lot of the things I'm going to be hitting on is the Agent Code of Conduct, and that is from the signing professional work group. Document storage and disposition. Well, as an NSA, you erase the information and any files containing electronic closing documents immediately upon the conclusion of the assignment. Now, to me, the conclusion of the assignment is when I get paid. So go with that. Retrieving the documents. To me, I get a sense of relief once I get the call or the email that the documents are ready for download, as long as it's not 2 hours before the appointment. Then you kind of go into a little frenzy and you start calling folks. But do be careful on how you're doing this, because the documents can come to you in a number of different ways. From a secure website, usually you get an email with a link, you hit the link, and you got to have a password in order to get onto the website. It can come from a portal or platform. Again, you got to have a password. There's some companies that'll send 2 emails, one with a link and another with a password, so you got to print them out both. Could come through a secure email, could come through an app, or the documents could be sent directly to the borrower. A lot of these are like home equity loans where they'll send the package and you meet them at a bank or something like that. I always double check with the borrowers to make sure that they do have those documents before the appointment, because if they're not there, then there's really no reason to go. You're not going to share any of your login credentials with anybody else, and you are going to use a secure computer, not a public computer, again, because you are protecting the signer's personal, non-public information. And want to kind of allude to, you'll get signing instructions. So make sure you check those signing instructions before the appointment, because you want to know, well, do I need to print all these on legal paper, or do I print them on letter paper? Do I need to print a set for the borrower? Make sure that you don't print the documents too early. This is where you got to be careful. Most of them do not want you to print the documents at least 12 hours before the appointment. I ran into one situation where I printed the documents within a 12-hour window, but they wouldn't pay me a signing fee because I printed them more than 4 hours before the appointment, and that's just not right. And a lot of, if you're only printing, you'll be the one printing the documents because it is your assignment and your responsibility, again, to protect that. And you will protect the privacy of the signer and the closing documents from any unauthorized disclosure. Most of the documents are going to come in a PDF form as an attachment. And when you download those, you'll need to have Adobe Acrobat to print those documents. And you should have a dual trade printer, so you can print both in letter and in legal. Most of the time you'll be printing a borrower's copy. When you are printing, when you get to your print screen, make sure you choose paper source by PDF, and you want it to print the way that the documents were sent to you. So you don't print them all on letter paper and then you find out they need to be on legal paper. And again, most times you're going to be printing 2 sets of documents, one for signing and one for the borrower. If the borrower asks for an electronic copy, they need to contact the title company because you are not supposed to give them an electronic copy. Now when I print my documents, we'll step over here for a second. I print their documents and I put it in an envelope, and I put with a binder clip. Now you can use anything that you really want to use. You can use manila envelopes, you can use file folders. Some people just give them in binder clips, but I've had people say, don't you have something to put it in? So they're about a quarter piece. But they're a tax write-off, okay? I like to print off 3 copies of the return slip. One to go on the package, one to go at the front of the package in case the package gets ripped open, and one for your, with your confirmation. That way, if if it needs to be tracked, you've got the tracking information. After I've printed the documents, I usually like to send an email back to whoever sent me the package saying documents are received and printed. You can do that with email, or if it's on a platform, a lot of times they want you, if you put it on there, then they'll know you've got the information. Now, after you printed them, you're going to be make sure that there's no, I call them wingdings or odd characters, because then you've got some problems, and usually it's on your side because they would have printed the documents like that. It is your responsibility to check the documents prior to the closing to make sure that they're the right documents. I've actually got packages that were for the wrong borrower, and then you call them and they resend them. When I am going through the documents, I like to use the stickies, the little arrows, and there's all different kinds. There's here, and then you got these. Why I use those is I don't want to have the package out of order, because the title company will want the package back the way they got it. And I like to do my presentation in a certain order. First thing, when you get there, and Elaine, I think, was going to go on this a little farther, but the first thing you're going to do is get their ID. So anything having to do with their identification, I do that first, and then I like to do the closing disclosure, the note, the critical documents, and then go from there. So that's what I usually use my stickies for. Now, as far as the borrower's documents, I like, what do the borrowers really want to know? They want to know when their payment's due, how much of their payment, where do they send it to. So that's the form I put on top of theirs. And then they also want to know, how much am I paying for this? So you put the closing disclosure, or I put the closing disclosure right after that. That way, all our questions are answered. When you're done reviewing, I put them in either a FedEx or a UPS envelope with the shipping. I put the shipping label inside of this, and that's how I go to the closing. So when I'm done with the closing, I just seal it up in front of them, and then drive over to UPS or FedEx. Okay. All right, now we've got all the documents printed. Now, yes, go ahead.
I have a big
personally don't do that.
Could you repeat the question?
Okay, in case you didn't hear the question, you say some people will print front and back and on letter-sized paper. Personally, I don't do that because if there's a mistake, you know, sometimes in the instruction they'll say no crossouts or whiteout or anything like that. So if there's a mistake, you go and you pull the one out of the borrower's copy to use that. I mean, if you think they're, yeah. So if you exactly, yeah, and more than once, you know, because they'll put the wrong date or something like that. So personally, I don't do that. The only thing I don't print is the closing instructions because they don't need that. Okay? All right. Anything else? We're good? Okay. So we printed the documents and it's time to go to the appointment. Okay. As you're done now, huh? Sorry, I missed the clicky. Okay. So where do you park the car? Well, you Google where the address is, you pull up. Now, if you're in the city or in a subdivision, park on the street. You don't want to park in the driveway because if your car's leaking oil, you don't want to get into that. If you're meeting at a bank or a public facility, I park away and walk up, leaving the room for the customers and you know, the building. And if you are out in the country, you can kind of, you know, pull up in the driveway, but don't park too close in case one of the teenagers or something needs to get out. And so it gives them room to happen. I've had to get up and move my car during the closing. Okay. So you're going up the door, you knock on the door. Hi, my name's Doug. I'm here to conduct your loan closing. We spoke earlier on the phone. Very nice to meet you. Normally you're shaking their hand. Give them a firm handshake. And I've also had an ID made, so they'll know who I am. It's got my nice smiling face on there. It's got my name. Cause if they want to know who I am, then I've already got this taken care of. Now, you wait for them to invite you inside. If a little kid answers the door, go get mommy and daddy. And you'll say, okay, where would you like to conduct the closing? Not at a coffee table, okay? You want to direct them to a table. And you suggest that they sit next to each other. Now, if it's at a table, I like to sit on one side, let one of the borrowers sit on my right, one across from me. I tell them I don't want them to go too far because my arms aren't that long. Okay, so Elaine.
So Doug showed you his identification, right, which is really nice because there have been times when I've gone to the borrower's home and of course the first thing we do is ask for their ID. And then every now and then someone will look at me and say, could I have your ID? So he's taking care of that because this is something that he carries with him all the time and present. And so we're talking about the borrower's ID, which we know that we do ask for their ID, but we have to identify them, of course. And in the packet that you have, at the end is just a sample journal because that's when we start recording information. We get their ID, and then we begin recording information of the details of the transactions in our journal along with their signature. So once we have all that in place, we are seated. What I normally do is more or less set the stage. That's what I call it. I sort of set the stage as to what is to come. And you're going to see whereby in setting the stage, I have a certain introduction. And it goes like this. My name is Elaine Wright Harris, and I'm a certified signing specialist here in the state of Maryland. And my purpose in being here today is to ensure that you sign your documents in the right places and I notarize certain sensitive documents. I am an independent contractor. Should you have questions regarding the figure details of your loan, we'll simply call the home office. Do you have a contact person available? Your loan officer's number? And normally they'll say yes. They will say yes. But then I'll say first, I like to record your identification information along with your signature in my journal. as I stated earlier, I do notarize certain sensitive documents. Now, may I ask you a couple questions? One, are you signing these documents willingly? And could you raise your right hand? Under penalties of perjury and upon personal knowledge, do you solemnly affirm that the information given to the lender was correct? And see, now what we're doing, we're getting into our verbal declarations. Those are basic notary public procedures. Because you see, we're wearing two hats, you know, as a notary signing agent, but we still must follow our notary public procedures. Now, the next thing I like to review is how you are to sign your name. So now, if you would take a look at the front page of your packet that says the closing disclosure. As I take a look there at the top, I see borrower Richard Wim Rogers, right? And so I usually check both the closing disclosure and the deed of trust to see how the name is printed, because the title company prints certain documents and the lender prints certain documents. So if you ever wonder why sometimes on one set of documents they don't have the middle initial and on the other side they do have it, well, on another document they do have it, it's because sometimes it's printed by two entities there. So I verify how it's done, and in this case we see Richard, and we see the middle name spelled out, and we see Rogers. That's the way you are to sign your name. And then I'll sort of round it up by saying the bottom line is that you're going to sign your name the way you see it, because it may be different on one of the title documents, you know, versus the lender document. Now, when it comes to the initials, you're going to put your first, middle, last initials, because some documents will ask for your initials. Now, take a look here at the signature line. So now I want you to turn to page 5 of the closing disclosure. And I've learned to read upside down. We all learn to do that, right? So you're sitting at the table, and I have the paper here. Take a look at page 5 at the signature here. You see that it's asking for date. So when it asks for the date, you're going to write the date. If you see your signature line and it doesn't have date, then you don't write it. So what I do, that eliminates some dates further down the line when you can explain it up front. By the way, I have a set of documents for you. So then I will take the set of documents for them and sort of put it to the side. You can either put it to the side or you can give it to them, but I found with my experience, if you give it to them, what are they going to do? So I kind of put it to the side here. And so but I do let them know that I have a copy of the documents for their records. Now, special points that you want to take note of in the beginning, whether or not you're presenting to 1, 2, I never forget the time I had 5 borrowers that I had to present to. So yes, so you want to take note of that, how it's going to be done, who's sitting where, and how the documents are going to flow. Sometimes the signing company or title company may ask for a copy of their ID. So this is something that you would have made note of, so you can get a copy of the ID from the borrower. Whether or not you have to collect funds. The fact that you do have to be very patient. Like Wanda stated, there could be some animals or something there, or could be a baby crying, so we do have to exuberate patience. And conversing with the borrower. Sometimes they like to talk because we may be the only ones that they see. But we want to keep the conversation to a minimum because we are actually doing this transaction. And sometimes there are signing mistakes. And in that case, when you do have that second set of documents, you can sort of swap it out. Well, of course, we do know normally what we would say, they can line through it and initial like that, but you do have some choices. So let's begin working with the documents. You're there. What I have found, I was showing yesterday, I take my attache with me, right? Has everything in here that I need. So when I get to the bar's home and I sit there at the table, just in case, I'll say, now I do need to see your ID, just in case they don't have their ID available. So while they're looking for their ID, then I'm able, I'll freely go into this pocket, I'll pull out my glasses, I'll go into this pocket right here, and then I'll put my stamps to the side. I'm pulling out my little ink pens there that I'm gonna work with them on, and I'll pull out my journal, so I'm just sort of setting my table up while they're looking for their IDs. So we're gonna sit at the table now. So I'm here at the table. Can everybody see me? And so, as I said, I've learned to read upside down. So let's say they're sitting across from me at the table, and I have the documents here, and this is the closing disclosure. So you can follow along with me on the closing disclosure. What you're going to find is that I'm going to give a brief description of the closing disclosure and guide them where to sign. It will go something like this. This is your closing disclosure. This document itemizes all of the costs associated with your loan. On page 1, you will see, and then I'm pointing there with my pen, you will see your loan amount, $205,631. Your interest rate, 3.25%. Your monthly principal and interest, $894.92. Now let's come on down and take a look at your escrow. You're going to see estimated taxes, insurance, and assessments. That's $445.23 a month. And when they add your escrow to your principal and interest, now you're taking a look at your monthly payment. Your closing costs are $4,976.08, and your cash to close, $2,666.92. Now you're going to see that the cash to close has that little X from. And then I pause. And then when I pause, then they give me their funds. Okay, and I collect the funds right then and there at that time. So they will give me their funds, and then I let them also know that the remaining pages include the details of their closing calculations. And on page 5 is where they're going to sign and date the document. And then once they sign the document, I glance at it to make sure it's correct, and then I will put it to the side here. I'll probably turn it upside down to the side right there. And that's just one cursory glance. You will find that before the loan is completely finished, I will go through the documents again.
Also included.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I have come to some situations where there is a husband and wife, and there are at times where the wife, her name isn't on some of the documents,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's some.
Mm-hmm.
I have gotten documentation kicked back because the wife didn't sign where her name wasn't, and there are times where her name isn't and she shouldn't sign.
Okay.
So how do you?
So the question on the floor is that you have a case in where the husband and wife, and then the wife's name not on some of the documents that they say she should have signed, and then in some cases, what was the other case?
That her name will be there, so I'll get disclosures
Right.
that'll have the wife and husband on it.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I can have another set of couple that I'm at where the wife's name isn't on the
Okay.
disclosure.
All right. Okay. So we're dealing with a couple of things here. Number one, there is such thing called non-applicant spouse.
Correct, yeah.
And then when you do have a signing or closing where there is a non-applicant spouse, well then the spouse name will not be on all of the signatures, the documents. Now, if you're dealing with a case whereby they say you should have signed and there was no name there, that's something that you would not know.
Correct.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay, because you can't determine where one signs, that is their responsibility to determine where one signs.
Yeah, now I have to go all the way back
And,
to those documents. before I
right,
drop
right.
'em for
So
her to
that's
sign.
something that you would have to speak to them about, and also, like I was in a class yesterday whereby you can sort of make a note of the different companies and the way they do things. So if they're sending you all the way back and you're not being compensated for something that they omitted,
Mhm.
then you may wanna limit your experience with them,
I got you,
okay?
okay.
Do we have another question back there?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not a question, I just want to comment on her statement. I know there's a lot of times, and they'll usually say veterans only, when you're doing a VA, there's a lot of places where only the veteran will sign. So it may be the spouse as a veteran, not the female or the male, whoever the veteran is, they're the only one that signs certain
Or
documents.
the VA loan itself, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
so it's a matter of taking a look, and then also if you've had a chance to review the documents before you go to the closing, then you will have a chance to give them a call and get it clarified at that
That would be
time.
a good practice to do.
Yeah, that would be a good practice. Make sure we review it before we go to the closing, yes.
Also included in the loan closing package is a document called a notice of right to cancel. And by law, the borrower has three business days to review the documentation, make a determination as whether or not they want to move forward. If they do want to move forward, they would go all the way to the bottom of the document, sign and date it as their name is typed there. However, if they think that they may want to cancel, in the middle of the document, there's that's provided for. It says, "I wish to cancel." They will sign their date and follow the instructions for getting that back to the title company.
What I do on those two, which is really, because a lot of times if you're upside down from them, they automatically want to sign where it says, "I wish to cancel," instead of down below.
Well, when I'm doing it, I have it upside down,
Uh-huh.
and I'm pointing with my pen where they should sign
A lot of times I
to help
put a little
guide them.
sticky beforehand and I put it over that line.
That'll
to
help.
make
That'll
sure
do
that
it.
they
That'll
get it.
work too.
Or if you're quick enough, stick your hand in there.
I'll be like, but let me ask, if you do, and you're at the table, and at that point they wish to cancel after all is said and done and you're there, do you stop and just ask them to call the loan officer just to speak to them first?
Oh,
before
yes,
the
if they
whole
do wish to
process?
cancel, yes,
Okay.
you would call the
Okay.
lender, loan company. Now, this is your note. Your note is your promise to pay back the loan. And take a look at the note. You're gonna see, looking at item 2 here, your loan amount, $205,631, and your interest rate, 3.25%, is reiterated here. You're also gonna see your first payment is due May 1, and your last pay, May 1, okay, 2017, and your last payment, April 2043. When you take a look here, this figure, you're also gonna see the $894.92. That, again, is your monthly payment in principal. It does not include your escrow. And item 6 on your note explains late payments and failure to pay. This is a 4-page document, and on page 4, you're gonna sign your signature. Now, if you notice, I said your signature. So I try to help them along. Let's say it had date there, then I would say signature and date. But I try to specify your signature.
The deed of trust is the next document, and this is a pledge of the property as collateral for the loan. So if you don't pay, you don't get to stay. This document has 14 pages, and there is a place for initials on 12 of those pages. And your signature, along with no date, is on page 13. And my notarization will be on page 14. Also, as part of the deed, in this particular case, there's a condominium rider. Riders just mean that there are additional requirements that have to be met. And together, these documents are considered as one with the deed. And that signature will be on the last page, which is page 3.
Now we're gonna take a look at the occupancy and principal status affidavit. By signing this document, you are stating that the property will be occupied as your principal residence and that your financial status has not changed significantly since you applied for the loan. This is a 2-page document, and you're gonna sign your signature and date on page 2. And let's take a look at your signature affidavit and AKA statement. By signing this signature affidavit and AKA statement, you are certifying that this is your correct signature. This is sort of similar to a signature card that one would sign when they open up a bank account. And the AKA lists any name variations you may have. And you're gonna match each name with a signature. So you say you've never been known as Rick Rogers? And they would say, oh no, I've never had this name, I'm not gonna sign this way. Well, all you need to do to the right of that where one would put their signature, just write never known as an initial. Put your initials.
Next document.
Question?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So, where it says Rick Rogers, he should sign as Rick Rogers, is that?
If he's known as that name.
See,
If he's not disputing that name itself, okay,
Mhm.
that's it.
Right.
Thank you.
So again, with the AKA, just in case, they are to match each name printed with a signature. But there will be cases in which someone say, I've never been known as this person. And so, no problem, they
So
just
there
simply.
should be something to the right of it, no matter what.
Exactly.
Either
Well,
the
if
signature
he's
and-
not signing, attesting to the fact that this is me, then he would write yes, never known as, and initial it. Does that answer your question?
So, in terms of, so where it says Richard Rogers, the second one down, would he sign to the right of that Richard Rogers?
Yes.
Or Richard William Rogers?
He would match it. Whatever is printed, he would match it with a signature.
Okay, and if not, never known as, and then his initials,
Right.
RWR.
And the initials represent the fact that this is a correction.
So whatever's on the left, you have to sign it on the right or never known as.
Okay?
Monique, did you have a question?
She answered it.
Great. Next document is the limited power of attorney. This is where the borrower is saying, or acknowledging and letting the lender fix any typographical or clerical errors in any of the documents. That's under the powers. In the top of it, it's got the loan number, it's got the property address, so it's stating what this is limited to. And additionally, the powers is to fix any typographical or clerical errors. Now, those are usually limited to the spelling of your name, the property address, plan unit development. They sign, they date it, and then it is an acknowledgement, so you're gonna fill out the acknowledgement, sign and stamp.
Now, is this also known as a compliance?
The compliance, that's a different one. The
It's
compliance,
similar?
it's similar, but the compliance agreement, and I think Wanda's gonna talk about that,
Okay.
is just that if they ask you to help out, you'll help out if something got missed.
Now, you said you would fill this out as an acknowledgement.
Well, the acknowledgement side, it says page 1 of 2, and then page 2 of 2, it's got an acknowledgement on the back. If it's a jurat, then it's jurat. It all depends on what software they're using. Okay?
The next document is the uniform residential loan application. And this is the basis for your qualification for the loan. This is the final typed version. At the top will be the signatures. On the first 5 pages, there will be initials at the bottom. On page 5, signature and date. On page 6, initials. And on page 7, again, signature and date.
And then we have the Patriot Act. In any new loan that is opened, federal law requires that you verify the identity of the person who's opening the account. The Patriot Act is to fight funding of terrorism and money laundering activities. Now, depending on which software they have, you'll be either using, in this case, you have to fill in 2 forms of ID. Some of them you only have to fill in 1. Make sure one of them is a picture ID. And on the second page, under certification, you'll be signing, dating, printing your name, and putting your title there. You are certifying that you saw these documents. And as Elaine stated earlier, you're wearing 2 hats when you're doing a signing or a closing. 1, you're a notary. 2, you're a signing agent. Are you notarizing this form? No. So you're a signing agent. So I'd sign my name, I'd put the date, I'd print my name, and then I'd put signing agent.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
So there are at times where I would have 2 people signing, but I would only get 1 of these.
Okay.
So
Now, that would depend on, if it's a non-borrowing spouse. Okay?
so I don't need the wife to sign.
Unless there's a form for her,
Don't-
no.
Okay, all right.
Nope, and that usually goes back to who's on the loan, because on the note, there may only be 1 person, but on the mortgage, there's 2,
Okay.
okay?
And it also helps, again, when you review the documents before you go to the closing, and if you have that question, and if it does need to be there, they'll send it.
Okay, and then we're going to the second set of documents. That's the stapled ones. And on the front is the ALTA statement. ALTA is the American Land Title Association. Now, in your packet, you had the closing disclosure. Remember, the closing disclosure comes from the lender. The lender is not the one that disperses the money. The title company is the one that disperses the money. It will have all the same figures on there, just in a different format. And on page 3, the borrowers would sign on that. And then the next one is the mortgage. A mortgage is pretty much the same thing as a deed of trust. Deed of trust has another level in there in case there's a foreclosure, having to go to court. And the mortgage could be anywhere from 9 to 14 pages. Again, it's an acknowledgement, filling that out. In this package, we have what's called a plan unit development rider. The plan unit development rider is if you live in a plan unit development or a subdivision, and it sets out certain rules or covenants, like your mailboxes have all got to be the same or whatever. And also, as part of this plan unit development rider, if you have homeowners association dues, you are stating that you will pay those dues because the lender does not want the non-payment of those dues to come back as a lien on the property. Okay?
This is your 4506T, request for transcript of tax return. You will fill this form out. Oh, and this is also an IRS form. You will fill this form out. You filled this form out when you first applied for the loan, but now they need a wet signature. And this is an IRS form used to retrieve past tax returns, W-2s or 1099 transcripts on file. So what you want to do with this document, you take a look here, item 1B, you want to verify your social security number. And then come on down and you're gonna see right before sign here, there's a little checkbox there that you are gonna check, acknowledging the fact that you are the IRS person that they're referring to, Richard William Rogers. And you're gonna sign here and you're gonna date here.
if a couple is, let's say Richard is married, even though she's not on the thing, if they file together, does she need to sign?
That's a good question. So the question is, if Richard happens to be married and his name is only here, how would we handle it? All right, well, the way we would handle this, we will take a look at whose name is here. So if Richard William Rogers is the only name, he would be the only one to sign. What you're gonna find in your loan packages, there are usually one for each person. And then when you're dealing with a husband and wife, you may have one for the husband, one for the wife, and one with both names on them. But your key is to take a look at 1A and 2A. It's whoever name is on here, that's the person who signs.
Okay, so if her name is on there, then you put it, if it's not, you don't have to.
If the person's name is not on there, they do not sign.
Okay.
Okay, and this box down here, isn't that something new where we have to have that check?
Yeah, that's been in effect for about a year or a year and a half, but yes, so you wanna make sure that they do check that box.
It's from March of last year.
Okay.
And what it just says is you have the authority to sign the form. Well, it's got your name and your social security number. If you don't have the authority to sign the form, I don't know who does.
And you verify that's you. So, again, when you're working with them, remember we have our papers upside down. This is the 4506T, and you're going to verify your social security number, and you're gonna check this box here, verifying that you are, the signer here, and signature and date. And you're pointing to these things, so they'll know exactly where to sign.
I have another question. There's a lot of blank boxes on here. Do you have them line it out as well, so that you don't leave anything blank?
No, this is ours form, this is the way they want, so we would not change this document. And then also for your information though, look at item 9. Those are the years that they are referencing in which they will pull the transcripts.
Also included in this package is another variation of a correction agreement. And these corrections are for typographical or clerical errors in the loan documentation. And also there are conditions under which you are providing this authority. And you will also sign no date on this particular form.
The new loan payment form, this breaks down how your payment is principal and interest, if you have mortgage insurance, what's going into your escrow account. It shows when the first payment is, when the last payment is, where you send your payment. A variation of this is you might have temporary coupons where for your first payment and second payment, more or less if they don't send you a statement by the time your first payment's due, you still gotta make the payment.
You said that this is when you use your, whenever you take papers out of order?
This is on the borrower's copy, this is what I put on top.
Yes.
This is what they wanna know.
Why would you put the little sticker on, to show where to put it back, or that it's out of place, or what? For somebody who doesn't, hasn't done 67,000.
No, 6,500. Thank you. No, I just put that on the top of their set when I give them their set, okay?
Okay.
I put this on the top, because that's what they want to know, okay? How much is my payment? Where do I send my payment? That's, that's the burning question in there, and how much did it cost me to do all this? So those are the ones I put on the top to give to the borrower, okay?
The W-9 is also included, and the purpose of this form is to verify your social security number. So in the middle of the page on part 1, you will have them verify that that is in fact their social security number, and a few paragraphs below that, you have them sign and date it.
So that's a sampling of some of the documents. There will be other documents, but we wanted to go over a few of them with you today. And guess what? Sometimes there are challenging situations. And it might not be so challenging, but they'll look at me and they'll say, do you have the money? And then you will let them know that, that's dispersed by the title company after the 3 days right rescission. In case the borrower refuses to sign, you just stop right there and call the title company. If you cannot contact the closing agent, and there may have been a few times in which I was not able to contact the closing agent, I make sure, one, I leave a voicemail, or I try to email. I have some kind of tracking path, if that is the situation there. So there are a couple of situations here, and I just want to go over a couple of them briefly with you, but it will happen. And so just as a wrap up, I would say, Mr. Rogers, I had written that out earlier, it has been a pleasure working with you. This is your set of loan documents. So at that time is when I hand in the loan documents. Are there any other questions I can assist you with today? And then when I'm asking that question now, if there are questions that I cannot answer, of course I would refer them to the loan officer. And at this time is when I give them my business card. You can do it beforehand if you choose to, or you can do it at this time. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to take a few minutes to review the documents one more time to ensure that the documents have been signed properly. And then that's what I do. I take those documents and I go through them. I'd rather take 5 more minutes than have to go back 2 or 3 days later. And I thank them for their time.
Especially when there's children or something, and the woman is over here doing something, and you think that she's signed. When you go through that second time, I have had, oh, you've missed it. And my
That's right.
favorite one is when you got so much going on, because there will be, and I realized that I have not certified it. I filled it out, but I haven't stamped it.
Right.
That's
And
very
see, when we go through it that second time, we're looking at it with a different eye.
Yes.
Okay, we've made it through the loan closing. And now we want to take care of some responsibilities. You want to make sure that if there fax backs are required, you want to make sure you do that in a very timely manner, usually within 2 hours, because in some cases, that fax back is the indicator that funding can be.
Go ahead. One more.
And you want to make sure you get those fax backs done in a timely manner, because that could be an indicator that it's okay for them to fund the loan. Also, you want to make sure that you followed all the instructions in the instruction list that was included in the loan package.
Post-closing responsibilities. Okay, you're done with the package, you've left, you're driving. It's time to drop the package off. Normally they want it back, they want some kind of confirmation that the closing has happened and you're gonna drop the package. Normally, depending on when FedEx and UPS open, as soon as I'm done, I will go right to FedEx or UPS. And the reason I go right inside is because I want to get a receipt. If something gets lost, I've got proof that I did drop it off. Now, my local UPS doesn't open until 11:30, but I can take it to Staples, because they're open, and still get a receipt, and then the documents, their cutoff is 4 p.m., so I know I can get a receipt and drop it off, and still make the cutoff. Know your cutoffs for both FedEx and UPS, and my town, they're both open till 8 o'clock. So, and then when I bring the package in, they'll go, well, how many times you been in today? So there's sometimes 3 or 4 times when I'm in FedEx or UPS. So always get a receipt. Only use a drop box if you have no other options, but don't let it sit in the drop box all night. You never know if it's going to be picked up or not. So that's the biggest thing, is to get a receipt so you can show that you did your part. And if they ever want sometimes I'll even have some that want me to fax back the receipt to show that it was dropped off. As far as post-closing responsibility, if there's any issues, if there's a lender error, they should acknowledge it. Oh, we forgot to put something in here. Will you go back out? We'll pay you another $50. if it's a notary error, fess up to it. It's your you didn't stamp something, then take care of it as soon as possible, because a lot of times they'll look at you and it's how you handle it is how they're going to remember you. If you go, I stamped it, and then they send it to you and you didn't stamp it, then, so you want to take care of any notary error as quick as possible and be very open about it and very courteous about it. Okay, summary.
Okay, so remember in the beginning, 5 P's, proper planning prevents poor performance. And now that we've gone through this, we have 5 more P's for you. You want to be prepared, you want to be proactive, you want to be persistent, you want to be patient, and you want to be professional. So what we've done here is work with you on different techniques that can help you be that professional signing agent and actually manage your loan signings like a pro. So at this time, if we have any other questions, okay, here we are.
I have a question. On the deed of trust, on the bottom, I noticed under the client's signature, you have 2 sets for witnesses. Must you have 2 witnesses present? That must be filled out as well, right? So I should be telling them I need 2 witnesses?
Okay, the way that works depends on your state.
Right.
See, because the deed of trust is a standard form.
Okay.
And like in my state, it does not require witnesses, so you would need to, check that out and see if
Okay.
it requires witnesses in your state.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
You must have done a good job.
One more.
You did?
Okay, so you would like to hear one more time what the W-9 is for? What do you
How
want?
do you explain it? What's a good way to explain it?
Okay.
To borrow water, filling it upon this,
Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna talk about the W-9 and how, what we say to the borrower. So if you wanted to handle that, we'll hear one way.
Okay. I usually say that this is, as you can see in the title, the W-9, it's a request for taxpayer identification number and certification. Identification number meaning your social security number. And in part 1 here, it lists social security number, and I asked them to verify that that is in fact their social security number.
And as far as why, sometimes I say, now, you know that 1098 form that you get at the end of the year showing your mortgage interest? Okay, they want to make sure it goes to the right person, so that's why we want to verify your social security number. Okay.
What
Any-
what was that form that you said you get?
Excuse me?
What form did you say that you get?
W-9, we're just talking about the
No,
W-9.
The
the interest,
End
they
of
send
the
you the
year.
interest statement at the end of
Interest
January.
statement.
Oh,
It's a 1099.
1098,
1098.
yes, 1098. All right, well, very good. If you have other questions you want to come up and ask us, please feel free to do so. This is never ending. We've been doing it for over 40 years.
Combined.
Combined. yeah.
Combined. Thank you very much.
We're not
We have a
David Sheehan.
nice
Thank you.
conference here.
We're not
We'll
David
see you
Sheehan.
tonight. All right.
What's his name? On the videos? You might want to mention everybody's.
Now, did y'all know we were being live streamed?
That's what Cindy and.
Oh, well, I'm asking, did they know back
I
there?
didn't know.